Hi everyone. There will be some people slightly late, so we can start anyway because we have Stephen starting at 12:30 with a focus on macroeconomics, on focus on Europe, and he's getting up early just to deliver that for us, which is great. And then after that, we will have Tina Woods delivering on a deep dive about longevity tech and what's happening right now in the space. Tina, I can introduce now. So I know Tina well. She's also a good friend, but before everything, she's expert in longevity space and informing governments and other institutions to change policies in order to have much better life. So Tina is obviously a speaker at many conferences around the world. She's a guru of blue zones around the world as well. So I'm very grateful that she could make it today, even though very busy schedule because of other longevity.
There's a lot of stuff happening this week.
Anyway, so thank you for that. And after that, Mark, do we have Silicon Valley person coming to brief on VC?
I think he might be coming in by Zoom. I will know shortly.
Okay, thank you. And then, yeah, we will do some mingling. Good morning, Stephen. So looking forward to hearing your briefing as well. Thank you for getting up early for us. So how we usually start, we like to do a very brief intro. But before I say that, I would like to thank you all for coming, for making your time. I think it's always great. Group of amazing minds together where we share, where we explore, where we learn from each other. And so without further ado, I would like 3 questions to ask. So just introduce yourself briefly, who you are, where you're coming from, the place you were born, 1 fun fact, where do you live now, and next person do the same. So. And then later we will also have more questions. So shall we start with you, Calvin?
Sure. So I represent a single and multi-family office, so Port Calais, and actually run an exchange based out of Malaysia as well. I'm born in London. I used to play football in Wood Lane.
Oh, wow.
To Marion, if there's any other people here from there. And then fun fact is, I live in Hong Kong, so we couldn't go anywhere for many years thanks to COVID. So I just stopped doing water sports like windsurfing, which was a nice substitute for snowboarding because there was no snow.
Amazing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tom. I run a single family office based out of Zurich. We're originally in commodities and coffee, macadamia, but now we sort of have our direct investment portfolio and fund portfolio. Focusing on 3 areas. One is brain health, so we do a lot around longevity around brain, future of work, some AI, SaaS businesses, and the last is financial inclusion using DeFi, various crypto and shell businesses. Born in Nairobi, lived here for many years, but also Japan, now permanently based in Zurich. And fun fact is that I used to teach dance.
Are we going to have something at the end of this meeting just to try our skills?
Well,
Well, Tina, we don't have a back yet. No, there is a, yeah, no. Zip up my mouth. Okay, thank you.
I'm Victor. I was born and lived in London for the last 20 years. I focus on private credit, mainly private companies. On that, a bit of fintech and a couple of other things. And fun fact, I mix German, Spanish, so I frequently get mistaken for other nationalities, and sometimes the average nationality.
Okay. Thank you. Rod?
Hi guys, I'm Rod. I was born here in London, spent about 8 years out in Hong Kong, so I did a lot of wake surfing every weekend down by the town.
From joining us.
It's good fun. I run a venture group focused on human health and planetary health, as we invest or co-build. Fact was, I've just come back from Panama on a trip where I was diving into sea cucumbers and working on a sea cucumber project and harvesting that whilst also surfing. So it was a quite enjoyable work trip.
Thank you. Massimo?
Hello, hi. Massimo from TML Advisory on the debt side as well for SMEs UK. Just started on the job in the origination side. I've got another hat as again originator for distressed opportunities in Europe around the industrials mainly, and aspiring independent funds. So again, SME UK based. Fun fact, so I'm Italian with a French accent, just to confuse people. That's where I grew up, between France and Belgium. And I don't know if it's a fun fact, but I'm a keen photographer with a large format cameras, very much the old school way. That's it for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There?
I'm Sarah. I was born in Venezuela. I live in London. My background is in family office and lastly in private equity in emerging markets and generational VC, so very much in the health tech space. Fun fact, my sport of choice is Thai boxing.
Wow.
I was born in USSR. My name is Antoine. I was born in USSR. Spent more than half of my life in Ukraine. Moved to London in 2015, almost 10 years here. I'm running a single family office, group of capital, FCA regulation, mainly focused on credit. And on the private equity side, we are interested in water streams, bottling, logistics, getting water. So yeah, anything which is the and we just launched a new venture in Dubai. We applied for the AHC license as an asset manager, and we're launching a new public and private equity.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Kirby. Originally born in Texas, grew up in California, recently just moved here from New York about 2 months ago. My background, serial entrepreneur, built and sold a couple companies, most notable is a software company to Walmart. And now I help companies originate deals, something in that strategy, so debt, equity, or M&A. And I'm working with great founders and help them solve their most difficult problems. Fun fact about me, love to snowboard. It's very excited and interesting. I don't think my wife would agree, but it's something that but yeah, snowboarding. Excited to be snowboarding the Alps this.
Sorry, I forgot my fun fact. Also, a snowboarding and a wave surfer. So
I think we should organize the next camp on the beach so we can test your skills and we can learn as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joby. I work for a single family office. We are a tech investor, so focus on early stage tech, and we are tech agnostic. So anything tech related, we are interested. I originated from Hong Kong. I moved here 3 years ago. And fun fact, I recently started to learn golf. So after many years of good games, so finally get instructor. To now feel like so
Excellent.
Why isn't this?
excited.
Thank you. Tina?
So I'm Tina, and you'll hear a little bit about sort of what I do, but I wear lots of different hats. I run a gig called Collateral Health and also another gig called Business for Health. So I was born in Montreal, Canada, studied and worked in the States for about 8 years, and when I moved to London quite a long time ago. I've been here for well 35 years. And I guess my fun fact is, and you'll hear a little bit about this sort of journey that I've been on in terms of longevity, but music is medicine for me, and I love to dance, and actually that's how I'm learning.
We do that.
We dance. We go dancing quite a lot, and so techno is my thing, and I'm just about to have a techno DJ. The age of 60, I thought, yeah, that would be kind of fun. It was spurred by I had some pretty radical foot surgery a few months ago. Well, actually, about 5 months ago now. So it laid me up for about 3 months. I thought, how am I going to cope enough to dance? I said, well, I'll just learn how to mix music. But you can D-Day till the day you die. Anyway, so I'm gonna debut as Tina Technotic on the 6th of July. And anyone who would love to come to the world's first longevity rally this tickets will be.
That would be very, very interesting. Thank you. Alexander?
Yeah, I'm usually trained. I'm really in 2011, so been here for a while and we work. I'm here with my family business. We are industrial conglomerate in Ukraine, based there now. We do wagon building, industrial funds. So, and we also invest in tech companies and funds, mostly from Ukraine, and a bit of angel investing outside of Ukraine, US, and UK, mostly for now. Fun fact. I'm a lot into well-being and spirituality, so I like to mess up all the good recipes with healthy kind of recipes. So my desserts, if you want to try them, and to supplements and
So you're into what?
supplements and the word.
Oh, of course, yes.
Thank you. Oleg?
My name is Oleg, from Donetsk, Ukraine. I've been here for 5 years now. Going to UCL, I do politics, but then I'm an intern with Marks 361. And also, I'm an intern at Good Growth Capital, Anton's fund. So the fun fact would be I'm an art enjoyer and classical music. So
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so hello everybody, so you know me. Anthony Abel, I'm the CEO and founder of a company called TPX. My background is serial entrepreneur and serial financier. So I've been running VC funds, private equity funds, doing corporate finance, both in the regulated and outside the regulated environment. Originally from Toronto, Canada, yay Montreal. I've been living here since '83, so that makes me a bit of an old guy. My interests are fintech, prop tech, biotech, and energy tech, but the first two are the most important, fintech and prop tech. And we're doing lots of very interesting global breakout work in that space. A fun fact, former Olympic coach, 92, cross-country skiing, so I go ski uphill and downhill, for those who like to defy gravity. And then another fun fact, I'm surrounded by financiers and accountants who are all DJs. So anyway,
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Eugene. Actually, know quite a few of you here. I'm originally from Lithuania. Immigrated when I was a child to US, to Silicon Valley. Worked in multiple startups, built 2 companies. The second one was the more well-known, called Anchor Free, was a product called Hospice Shield, which was the largest consumer beauty company in the world. Was over 700 million people that used their products. After I left, I joined my partner, Simeon Dukac, on a journey to invest in people who immigrate from different countries into the United States to build their next unicorns. And we invest in early stage startups where founders are relocating from anywhere in the world to United States primarily, and some Canada as well. We do fintech, health tech, we do deep tech and B2B SaaS. Those are the primary areas. Fun fact would be I also run a fairly large founder community where we have global community of founders from around the world, usually Series B plus. Some are IPO'd founders come together to help each other with different things, like expanding into different areas and so on. That's why it's global. And we do like founder summits once a year where people fly into different country every time, and where people can exchange knowledge and things like that. There's 160 members there. And that's kind of the hobby / fun thing that I do, which is fun as well.
Excellent, thank you. Shall we do intros, people on the Zoom call, and then I'll do mine as well at the end.
Yeah, maybe Wanda, Peter, then Carl. Wanda, do you want to say hi?
Were you talking to me?
Gallo, I was talking to Wanda. I saw Wanda. Let's give it a sec. I'm jumping into an Uber.
Okay. Well, Gal, you can go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Gal.
Yeah, I was born in Israel. I live in Florida now. I'm an electrical engineer, 26 years, and the only thing I can say about this invention, land pollution in the world. And a fun fact about me, I love to travel.
Okay, thank you. Peter? And then Peter. Iris? Wanda?
Right.
No, Stephen, you want to intro yourself?
They may have. Well, Stephen will introduce himself properly. Again, I'm Mark Sainer in an Uber from the city, and from Newark, Ohio. Live in Short Hills, New Jersey, where I just arrived. And I, fun fact, been to 53 countries, but like to do more.
Okay, excellent.
All right.
Okay, so
I know Steven's on borrowed time a little bit, so if we could let him maybe launch and then go. Is that okay, Mariana? Okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I'll do. There will be people coming in as well. So go ahead, Stephen. We are all yours.
But Stephen, you may want to do the proper introduction. You know where you were born before you get going.
So, good morning. I'm Stephen Burke. I'm the managing partner at ARS Investment Partners. I have the opportunity to speak to the 361 community on a weekly basis for over 200 and some odd weeks since the pandemic started. And I was born in New York City. I live in New York City. Fun fact is somebody said they were taking up golf. I golfed 20 years right-handed, shot around 100, couldn't break 100 very easily. Switched to playing 20 years left-handed and realized I stink with both hands. So, it doesn't always help switching hands for those who want to try that. I'm going to jump into my presentation, Mariana, if that works for you.
I see Wanda, though. Wanda, do you want to say quickly?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Somehow my computer does not want to wake up, neither do I. It's relatively not that early on the East Coast, but still early. Wanda Lopush, and I am in corporate governance these days, went through all kinds of management and governance in small companies, in public companies, in not-for-profit, work with the UN, work with the other organizations. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Stephen.
Thank you. So good morning and thanks for joining today. This is one of the second one we did, Mark. It's not for the 11 o'clock. We did one in Singapore, so we're happy to talk to you guys in London this morning on your time rather than the 11 o'clock on the East Coast time here. But I wanted to talk about Europe and our thoughts on what's going on there. And let me just start by saying there's a lot of strengths of the European economies and the European markets, but we're going through a challenging time right now. But on the strength side, you have tremendous talent there. You have tremendous skills. You have a highly innovative companies across all sizes and across all industries. You have strong research institutions, and you've taken a leading role in Europe in climate and digital transformation. I think on the challenging side, we've seen that with the elections lately. The populations are frustrated and angry, and I think there's a lot of challenges on both sides that we need to move forward in a stronger, more unified way in Europe for it to succeed. I think back in June of 19, the European Council set 4 priorities for the European Union for the next 5 years, and There were really big goals to protecting citizens and freedom, developing a strong and vibrant economic base, building a climate neutral, green, fair, and social Europe, and promoting European interests and values on a global stage. And I think if they look back on those goals and where they are right now, I think they've made progress on some, but I think the elections this weekend showed some of the frustrations that the population has today. I think the real issue in Europe is a lack of growth, cost of living issues, and challenges with leadership that are what's driving the frustrations of voters. So today I want to take a look at the challenge that the ECB is facing in terms of managing inflation down, take a look at business competitiveness from a survey by E&Y and also from the view of BASF, and then touch on the politics that are driving a lot of the sentiment and where we're going from here. So obviously the ECB cut rates last week, the Fed's on tap for this week. It's the first rate cut in 5 years, but more importantly, it's the first rate cut done not driven by a financial crisis. And it is the ECB taking a bit of a lead on this. But I think one of the challenges, there are many challenges facing the ECB right now. One of them is growth. And when you look at the projections that came out of the ECB just last week, you can see that growing at 1.4 to 1.6% is stall speed for an economy and not enough to really get the economy moving forward. I think this is part of what's really driving the frustrations of voters. I think the second thing that's driving it is while inflation is moving down to target, cost of living is still high. And that's coming through in a lot of different areas. And I think that's part of what drove the voting the way it did in the recent elections. But I think what's on Christine Lagarde's mind and on the ECB's mind is they're worried that inflation is going to continue to rebound the way it's starting to look like in the US, where we had some really strong numbers. So the question in the US and the question for Europe is, do we have to worry about more inflation reappearing, or are the rates restrictive enough or not? I think the ECB's case, they saw enough weakness that they needed to move forward. The US economy is running at a bit of a stronger GDP rate. We also are seeing very good strength in our unemployment. But I think the questions for the ECB really get to some of the structural issues that are impacting their policy, government leaders' policies, and also business. And I think these are 5 issues that are going to be with us for some time. But aging societies are putting much greater strains on the budgets of governments, given the social benefits are not fully being supported by enough workers paying into the system, and the demographic cliff that's being faced in so many societies around the world, but also in particular in Europe, is putting you in a system where you're going to have long-term strains on the deficits and on the funding of the social programs. Similar to the US, where we have that, and that is a third rail for politicians. So we're not going to cut benefits. We're not going to ask people to work longer, although whatever time somebody tries, they don't get reelected. And the guys who say we're not going to do that get back in. I think the climate transition is more inflationary than people anticipated originally. Actually, back in September of 19, Mark had an event in London, and that was one of the questions that was asked. And back then we talked about climate transformation being inflationary in the early stages. We didn't think the early stages were going to go quite as long back then, but this transition is proving more costly and more inflationary than people thought, and just more challenging. I think the global fragmentation is really an issue where we lost the peace dividend. Globalization is changing, and we've moved from the lowest cost of production to the most dependable and resilient supply chains. Also an inflationary bias that's going to persist. You add to that the geopolitical fragmentation that's going on, and are we going to set up dual systems in the world between autocratic and democratic nations, or more like-minded nations? And again, another inflationary impact. And the antidote to inflation is productivity, and yet the productivity numbers out of Europe have been quite weak for some time. And then further compounding the problem for getting out of this situation and getting back to more sustainable growth is the debt levels on nations is creating a crowding out for necessary spending. And it's really one of the big issues at a time that Europe needs to put in place national programs similar to what the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and other stimulus programs that the US has on the fiscal side. It's much more difficult to get those put through where you get the scale across Europe because of the structure. So I think those are some of the issues. And then you add to it the fact that wage growth is still coming through the system. And it's because a lot of the wage increases were just put through in the last couple of quarters, the full effect of them has not come through. And you're seeing what the impact of wages are in the European area versus where they were just a couple of years ago. And that is a pretty significant burden on companies that require greater productivity to manage the inflationary pressures. And I think one of the areas that's different between the Europe and the US is the US has seen some productivity improvements where the US has really been Europe has been somewhat lackluster in that area. So switching gears to business competitiveness, I think the one big issue that we're facing, there are many, but the three big issues really are everyone focuses on the inflation and the energy problem and the instability, but the regulatory burden is one that has been a bigger issue. And it's become, a lot of that's come out of the policies that are really driven to the green energy and the climate policies, while well-intended, are not necessarily fully vetted in terms of the economic impact and what it means to business. And because we're in a global system that allows businesses to move freely to better jurisdictions that are more friendly, I think that's one of the things that's driving capital flows away from Europe. And that's been a big challenge. It's been a particularly big challenge for Germany, where they've seen about 12% foreign direct investment outflows, and where you've seen overall for Europe, I think last year was around 4%. So those issues are real. The other issues here are still going to continue to weigh on it: high inflation, the geopolitical tensions, what interest rates and tightening financial conditions do. I think the big one that we have to factor in is the impact of natural disasters that are going to persist. And we have very big hurricane season warnings coming out, but we've seen the climate impact around the world and what that's doing to the system, but what it's also doing to companies and industries. I think these are some of the big challenges, and these are reflected really in some comments from BASF recently, where they're shifting operations for one of their factories to China. And the reasons they listed were energy prices and availability. Obviously, the industrial sector needs reliable and affordable energy and supplies. And just think about, with the advent of AI and generative AI, what that's doing to the power demands. So if you're already behind the eight ball on securing reliable sources of energy and affordable energy, what happens when the demands go up geometrically because of the introduction of generative AI? I mentioned from the EY survey just a slide ago, the regulation, and it's in the case of BASF, they're prohibiting the production of chemicals that are needed for the energy transition that make it impossible for them, or very difficult for them, or very costly for them to do in Europe what they can do elsewhere, and particularly in China, because regulation around production of chemicals is not a big deal. And then you have the other issues that are really weighing on profits, where these are the forces that drive people to seek lower costs of capital or lower cost of production elsewhere. And it's rising bureaucracy, the Social Security contributions on the rise, the labor shortages, and then you're getting reduced hours with higher wages, which then impact profits. And it went so far as saying the CFO and the CEO said they can make profits everywhere in the world except Germany. And one site was losing $1.6 billion. It's very hard to support your local economy if you're losing that kind of money and justifying it to your shareholders and as a company. So these are the challenges that the companies are facing. And this is just one case study, but I talked a couple of years ago, or over the last year, the European Business Roundtable a year ago said that 3/4 of executives in Europe were looking at moving operations to the US or to Southeast Asia, with the bulk of it going to the US. And I think those issues are really about policy and leadership. And it's about getting caught up in the ideology of trying to affect transitions that are necessary, but need to be managed in a way where you're balancing off the practical nature of getting it done in a way that doesn't disrupt the economy or your population and turn them against you. And I think that's come through in some of the elections that we've seen. So let's switch gears to politics. And two of the big issues in the elections last weekend, and two of the big items on the referendum, one of them is immigration. And this is a survey that was done just recently in January of this year in Europe, and they were asking about immigration versus emigration and what are they worried about. And as you can see on the right-hand side, the immigration issue is a major issue for a lot of people. Ironically, it's a major issue, and it's one of the things that's going to be necessary given the population decline to get economies moving forward. The balancing of how you bring immigrants into countries in a structured way that allows you to fill in the needs that the gaps that economies have so you don't turn the population against you and feel like they're being disadvantaged is one of the key elements that has to be taken into account and thought about differently. I think Canada does an exceptional job in this. This issue is one of the hotbed issues in the US elections as well. And the handling of this could be one of the big problems for the Biden administration and their reelection. So it's not just Europe. This is a global issue. It's one that's particularly important. And we have populations in areas that don't have economic growth and where they're growing at a rapid rate. And we have population declines of scale, whether it's in Europe or Japan or South Korea or China, that are really weighing on the system. US is moving to stall speed there as well, but the other nations are really in a worse spot. So this is a real issue. And ironically, the negative feelings towards this are going to work against the economic growth of the economies. So it's really about structure and communication rather than the actual fact that immigrants are coming in a big way. So I think that's one issue that leaders are going to have to get their mind around and do a better job of. The second issue is around the energy policy and the energy issues that are related to the war and what it does to the cost of living. And this survey question is really quite telling because of what the platforms are of some of the parties that are losing their elections right now versus the ones that are winning, really fall into the category of, are you focusing on reducing carbon emissions in the long term or reducing your energy bills today? And this is really where the tyranny of the urgent are overwhelming voters, where they're saying, I can't even get by on a day-to-day basis because my energy bills are so overwhelming. And yet you're focusing on climate change and I can't pay my bills. And I think that striking the balance here is one of the key issues. And I think this is one of the challenges that the leaders have struggled with so far. And it's getting this right is what will get leaders elected, or if you want to do it the right way, or just go with the populist approach and say, we're going to focus on reducing your energy bills. And that is a much better winning ticket in the immediate term. And I think that's really the challenge of balancing off long-term structural change with short-term challenges that the populations are facing around the world. And then lastly, they threw in a survey question, would you be more pleased or disappointed if Donald Trump were to be elected as the next president? And as you can see, the red is disappointed, the blue is pleased, and disappointed outweighs the pleased by quite a bit. I think it's going to be interesting to see in the US. I think people overall, I just heard a survey from CNBC where they said that in terms of inflation and the economy, people feel Trump would be better. In terms of the overall outcome for the US, they feel that Biden would be better. But on immigration and other issues that are the hotbed issues in the US, Biden has not done as good a job in people's minds as Trump. And that's going to be a big issue moving forward. So where are we today overall? We see monetary policies diverging between the US and Europe and other areas. It looks like the US was going to be on hold for a little bit longer. I think the Fed surveys right now show about 1.8 cuts between now and January, with a 52% chance of the first cut coming in September, 62% chance of a cut in November. So the US is going to remain a little bit higher on rates, and that's going to continue to attract capital to the US, strengthen the dollar, which will put some greater strains on the rest of the world and on some commodity prices. I think the US is still a magnet for capital, attracting capital from around the world. But I do see some positive signs coming out of Europe and China where they're bottoming and starting to get their footing back in. I also think some of the national champions in Europe are real and are going to continue to drive the economic activity. We just have to make sure the policies are supportive of them to allow them to continue to grow. It's one of the challenges that China put forth when they cut some of their national champions and broke them up. I think there's more politics involved in what China did. I think in Europe, it's really just can they get their act together the right way from a leadership perspective. I think the global conflicts are entering a more difficult phase. They're going to put greater strains on the governments. That's also going to put, a Trump election would put greater strains on Europe for defending themselves, which would increase the build there and put greater strains on the governments as well. And when you add to those concerns, we do have the US election, debt servicing continuing to rise, and the threat of tariffs coming in by both presidential candidates in the US. Those are becoming much greater issues around the world. And so for us, when we look at the world, we still like the tech area. You have to be invested in it. But the areas supporting the climate transition, the digital transition, will require a lot more energy, a lot more use of materials, and getting the industrial bases of countries much more strengthened to support the system going forward. But when you're doing this in the environment we're in, I think the countries and the companies and the households that'll win are those that have strong balance sheets and the free cash flow necessary to make the investments in the future growth. Whether you're a country or a company, you have to be making the investments in improving your productivity and managing your costs down and managing your energy needs in a more effective way. So, Mark, those are the issues, and Mariana, those are the issues I would raise today. You know, open it up for comments and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions, comments?
And that's a US view, so you can tell me I'm wrong.
So I was actually, we were hosting a dinner yesterday with some of the founders, some of the later stage founders, for example, from Germany, for example. They're actually looking to relocate their company to the United States as well. They're already registered in the US, but they were out of Berlin. So they're actually moving to US completely because access to capital for later stage is pretty much non-existent in Europe.
Yeah. I can confirm that.
There's another issue that's going on that's quite interesting. Excuse me. You're seeing an increase in listings moving from European exchanges to the US to increase because they carry a higher multiple in the US. So you're seeing some companies just move to get a better multiple as well, which is a pretty interesting tactic that we're seeing start to increase quite a bit.
Maybe to that point, Stephen, they're not even listing in Europe anymore.
Yep.
There's
Same in the UK. So you have government help until you reach Series A. Series B already becomes a bit trickier, but then after that, it's very difficult to raise capital. So the UK government now is together with top VC firms and private equities, as well as government organizations, are having initiative to actually boost that in different ways. So there are some new ways coming along, but that will take time until they get obviously solid ground. So yeah,
I think I have an interesting conversation with another VC, later stage VC, where they said the problem is not lack of capital for late stage startups, because there is capital. The problem is there's no exits in the UK, because even if they raise 20 million, they might exit at 40 million max. Therefore, it's like too much,
valuations are much lower than if you
it's more or less that there is no way for them to exit. If they were able to exit, then there would be money there would be growth capital available. Right?
That's a good point.
I mean, from a lot of entrepreneurs' point of view, they have this lovely phrase saying, invented here, exploited elsewhere. So we have a lot of, we don't, entrepreneurs don't see the LSE as an exit path. The cost is too high, and so secondary liquidity.
Will change in 20 years.
So Carolina, to your point, and good to see you. We're developing a fund, a later stage fund for Eastern Europe, which we think is an even bigger arbitrage. But we're doing it transatlantic. We want to help East European companies come to the US where they have, that's their natural growing market, and exits. So we're trying to solve for that issue, partly to your point. By the way, you didn't introduce yourself because you came a little late.
Just came in. It's just, yeah. A brief introduction. So yes, I spent 15 years working in the energy sector on different types of investment, from infrastructure to innovation. And for the last 2 years, I've been involved in a venture capital fund that also invests in energy, climate, and space tech on the hardware side. Yeah, and sorry, to your point that nothing has changed for 20 years, that is not true, because over the last couple of years, we initially were talking in the UK that there was lack for early stage investments. And we moved now from early stage that there's lack of late stage investment. So there is progress, yeah. There are mechanisms for at least we're moving forward slowly. We're progress, yeah.
I mean, UK is still good, considering the situation with inflation and everything else. So,
I do think one of the game changers, Mariana, is the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act put the US at a pretty significant competitive advantage. And I think the European community has been slower to react to that. And we did that at the wrong time in the US too. We should have done those policies back when we had 0 interest rates, not when you have 5% interest rates. But that's the way governments spend. They wait till the worst time to do it. I think Europe's going to start doing that, and it's going to be late, and it's going to be expensive. And I think that's the longer it takes for them to get those policies, the more business is going to move out of the countries and move to other jurisdictions, which is going to put greater strains on the system as well.
Cool. Thank you. Do we have more questions and comments, or we can go to Zarin to introduce yourself as well? And Nicholas joined, Michael, Hammer, and myself.
Yep.
Hi, sure. Hi, I'm Zarin. I'm based in Switzerland, Zurich. Was born in Istanbul, and currently with Geneva Geo Consulting, where I focus on strategic partnerships and business development, and I have a private banking background. And just to follow on the discussion, yes, probably I also feel that American family offices are more used to investing venture capital or private deals or private debt than we see around here. It's not non-existent, but it's less common.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Nicholas?
Michael or Nicholas? Yeah. We're just asking everyone to introduce themselves.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in London, family office, and a few other responsibilities.
So, fun fact, a place where you were born, where do you live now?
Sorry, Mariana, what did you say?
Place you were born, where do you live now, and fun fact.
I was born in Lebanon. I lived in the UK and the US. And I didn't get the last question, sorry.
Just fun fact, anything that you would like to share with the community. Fun fact. Don't worry if you don't have.
Yeah, let's just move on.
We can skip that. Okay. Okay, Michael?
Michael Hammer?
Yeah. Good morning, Mike Hammer. Let's see, born in Chicago. What were the other two things? Fun fact, and what was the other thing?
Where do you live now?
Where do you live? What do you do?
I live in Ohio. Have investments in real estate, oil and gas, cattle, and I do investing in early stage startups. And a fun fact, I sailed across the Atlantic 6 times before the first time I flew across.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But did Rod share what he's done?
He is doing it.
Yeah, it's in the works.
He's building up his muscles for that.
I'm in training to row it.
Oh, well, okay.
I
So,
won't be doing it 6 times though. Just once is enough. I think.
Yeah, fair enough.
and maybe I can introduce myself briefly to people who don't know me. I'm Mirjana Prokic. I am a co-leader of 361 London Community Group. I'm also founder. I help people to sleep reset through my great wellness device, medical device. You will be able to try it on the next one in September. So I'll put you to sleep.
Is that a prompt?
But, and he said 30 minutes. Anyway, it's been a 7
Mirjana, is that we've been talking about this for a long time? Well, a couple of years.
Yes, yeah. But,
you promise? You promise?
Yeah, I promise this time. Yes, yeah. This time.
All right, then we need to feature that now.
Exactly.
We can fit it into the like a side agenda.
Yeah.
I remember they had the preview of it like 2 years ago.
Yeah. It's been 7 years of making 4 prototypes, MVP, and now it's all
congratulations.
Analyzing for actual scale manufacturing. So I was waiting for that last bit. So I didn't open my raising to anyone apart from my immediate circle of people and angels and lots of grants. So, but yeah, you will be able to try it. So
it's award winning, isn't it?
That's excellent.
It is award winning and it's the world's first. So anyway, no pitching by the way.
Well, but there are exceptions made when you actually, Mirjana, there are exceptions made when you actually provide a service, you know, with the pitching. That's okay.
Yeah, okay. I'm allowed.
That's a SaaS model. You pay.
There is a SaaS. No, well, I might do that. So 100K for 20 minutes for you guys. So this guy
Mirjana, can we let Stephen go?
Yes, Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your event.
And we'll see Stephen again at 11 if you wanted to see a repeat.
This time focused on the US and the rest of the world.
No, the same presentation. We only do one a day. So I can save you all the time.
One a week. One a week, Stephen. Don't say one a day. I'll make you do it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
And by the way, we do this briefing. Stephen does this briefing every Tuesday, 4 o'clock UK